Britt Westbourne's return to consciousness doesn't arrive like a clean sunrise. It comes in fragments, sound before sight, sensation before certainty, until the truth settles into her bloodstream with a quiet shock. She is alive. She is safe. And someone has been there for every uncertain hour in between. The room carries the subtle evidence of steady vigilance, the organized calm of a space watched over by a man who doesn't perform compassion for applause, but fulfills it like a duty written into his bones. When Britt finally focuses and understands that Jason Morgan has been the one holding the line for her, the emotion that rises in her is not simplistic gratitude. It is more complicated, more dangerous, more intimate. Because Britt knows what it costs to be protected by someone like Jason. His care is not soft in the sentimental way, it is reliable in the brutal way. It means he assessed every risk when she couldn't. It means he decided her life mattered enough to defend even when the world demanded he prioritize their latest crisis, their latest war, their latest betrayal. She has lived long enough with suspicion clinging to her name to recognize the difference between a man who is merely present and one who has been actively fighting time itself to keep her breathing. Waking up to that kind of devotion destabilizes her in the sweetest and most unnerving way. The tenderness between them doesn't need grand declarations to feel seismic. Britt's heart has always been a paradox of sharp edges and deep loyalty, and Jason has always been a paradox of quiet restraint and ferocious action. Their history is a labyrinth of near misses, complicated timing, and the kind of feelings that rarely survive the violence of Port Charles. Yet here they are again, no longer in theory, no longer in regret, but in the aftermath of a crisis that has forced truth to the surface. The air between them feels charged with unspoken meaning, as if survival itself has created a new language they are both afraid to speak out loud. Jason, however, does not belong to the kind of peace that lasts. Even in moments of fragile tenderness, the gravitational pull of other people's dangers keeps dragging him back to the storm. The relief of seeing Britt awake and stable is real, but it is not allowed to stay pure for long. Port Charles has never been generous with happiness, especially not to the people who carry its darkest burdens. News eventually reaches him, information that cuts through the temporary quiet of the hospital room like a blade. Jen Sidwell is blackmailing Sonny Corinthos, tightening a noose that could choke the entire balance of power in the city. Whatever Sidwell is holding, it is strong enough to try and corner Sonny into submission. And that single fact is all it takes to shift Jason's emotional temperature from guarded warmth to cold fury. Jason's rage isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It manifests as the sudden stillness that precedes violence, the precise calm of a man who has seen too many predators mistake intimidation for invincibility. Sonny is more than a boss or a friend, he is a pillar of Jason's identity, a man whose survival has been interwoven with Jason's purpose for years. The idea that someone like Sidwell believes he can control Sonny with threats is not merely insulting. It is provocative in the most dangerous sense. More importantly, Jason understands that blackmail is never isolated. It spreads like poison. If Sidwell is bold enough to pressure Sonny, then everyone adjacent to Sonny becomes collateral: family, associates, innocent bystanders, and the few people who have recently earned even a sliver of Jason's hope. In Jason's mind, threats to Sonny are threats to the structure that keeps far worse chaos from swallowing the city. Sidwell isn't just challenging Sonny, he is testing whether Jason still exists as Sonny's shield. The timing makes the situation even crueler. Britt is only just returning to herself, only just stepping back into a world where she can imagine something tender and real. Jason, inevitably, is being pulled away by duty and loyalty that are as much instinct as choice. Britt recognizes that pattern with a kind of helpless clarity. She is not naive enough to believe love, or whatever this is becoming, can be protected from the gravitational force of Sonny's empire. Yet she cannot pretend it doesn't hurt that safety has to share space with danger, and that her quiet miracle might be interrupted by another incoming war. What makes Britt's reaction so compelling is that she is not simply a woman waiting to be saved. She has never been built that way. If anything, waking up to Jason's care might make her more determined to fight for her life on her own terms, emotionally and physically. The realization that Jason chose to protect her doesn't just soften her, it galvanizes her. She knows men like Sidwell thrive on fear and fragmentation, on isolating their targets until resistance feels impossible. Britt has survived places far darker than a hospital bed. The thought of Sidwell destabilizing Sonny, and by extension threatening the delicate thread of stability that has allowed Britt to breathe again, awakens a fierce, protective instinct of her own. Jason's anger, meanwhile, is not just about power. It is about principles, however unspoken they may be. Blackmail violates the code of direct conflict that rules Sonny's world. Sidwell's approach is cowardice disguised as strategy. And Jason has never been patient with cowards who prey on the vulnerable, especially when they miscalculate who is standing behind the person they're targeting. The story becomes a forked road of emotion and consequence. One path is intimate and dangerously hopeful. Britt recovering, Britt remembering what it feels like to be seen without judgment, Britt tentatively allowing herself to believe that the best parts of her life might still be possible. The other path is inevitable and violent. Jason mobilizing, gathering information, and preparing to dismantle Sidwell's leverage with the efficient rage of a man who refuses to watch his family be hunted. The tension between these two paths is where the drama truly lives. Jason is not a man who abandons loyalty. He also isn't a man who ignores the quiet miracle of someone returning to life. The question is not whether he will protect Sonny, he will. The question is what that protection will cost him this time, and whether Britt will be left standing in the fallout or pulled into the fight as an equal participant in survival. If there is any silver lining in the looming conflict, it may be the way Britt's awakening changes the emotional stakes for Jason. He has always fought hardest when something deeply personal is on the line. Sidwell may think he is dealing with a familiar enforcer, a predictable guardian of Sonny's empire. But Jason with Britt back in his orbit is not the same man. The risk is sharper now. The motivation is more expansive. The consequences are more intimate. That sets the stage for a collision that feels both thrilling and tragic. Britt's renewed strength could become the heart of a new alliance, one built not just on romance, but on shared resilience. Jason's fury could become the spark that exposes Sidwell's overconfidence. And Sonny, caught in the tightening grip of blackmail, may soon witness just how far Jason is willing to go when loyalty and love are no longer separate battles, but the same war fought on different fronts. In Port Charles, peace is never a destination. It is a brief ceasefire purchased with pain. Britt waking up to Jason's care is a rare moment of grace. Sidwell's blackmail is the threat that tries to corrupt that grace into another tragedy. And Jason, standing between those realities, is about to prove once again that the most dangerous man in the room is not the one who makes threats. It is the one who silently decides the threat ends here.